Hello, my name is Matteo Maria de Laurentiis, and welcome to my Poli357 Politics of Contemporary Europe news brief. Today, I will be discussing reported instances of illegal pushbacks of refugees in the Aegean Sea between Greece and Turkey, implicating Frontex, the EU's border security agency. Over the past year, serious reports have emerged implicating Frontex agents as complicit in at least 6 episodes of migrant pushbacks in the Aegean Sea. Allegations assert that Frontex surveillance planes and boats have repeatedly failed to report instances of pushbacks by the Greek Hellenic Coast Guard and have even participated in pushbacks themselves. In one particularly serious incident, a Romanian crewed Frontex boat was documented physically blocking a dinghy of asylum seekers from entering Greek territorial waters before passing it at a high speed in a circular pattern to edge the dinghy further into Turkish waters, a maneuver that could have resulted in collision or caused the overcrowded raft to capsize. The raft, which had several children on board, was then left to drift for over 10 hours before it was rescued by the Turkish Coast Guard. In another incident, a Frontex boat observed Greek border guards take gasoline from and destroy the engine of a rubber raft full of migrants before pushing it back towards Turkey. A pregnant woman aboard the raft was later hospitalized for severe bleeding. Despite being only a few hundred meters away, the Frontex boat failed to respond to or report the incident. These allegations reveal a pattern of behavior concerning Frontex, wherein agents and officers have helped cover up violations, systematically turned off their automatic identification system transponders, discouraged crews from filing reports on pushback incidents, and in some cases, stopped initial alerts from being filed as serious incident reports after consulting with Greek authorities. Pushbacks endanger migrants' lives on the open seas, a fact that is supported by the sad reality that at least 1,319 men, women, and children died while attempting to cross the Mediterranean in 2019, and at least 1,150 perished in 2020. Additionally, they violate the principle of non-refoulement, by which states must not remove, expel, or extradite people to a state where they would be at risk of serious human rights violations. Such illegal activities, therefore, have serious implications for the fundamental human rights of migrants and asylum seekers, which Frontex is required to protect under EU and international law. In October 2020, Frontex Executive Director Fabrice Leggeri launched an internal inquiry into the allegations at the request of the Commission. The internal probe delivered its final report on March 1st, 2021, although a lack of independent actors in the probe has raised concerns about its and Frontex transparency. While the European Parliament also launched a scrutiny group for Frontex activities in February 2021, political divisions among MEPs precluded a full inquiry committee from being set up, severely limiting the investigation's scope and again raising questions about Frontex accountability. In addition, the Commissioner for Home Affairs, Yvla Johansson, has repeatedly stressed that because Frontex is an independent body, the Commission cannot hold the agency to account and is in no position to instruct the agency or its executive director on how to fulfill its mandate. Frontex has been widely criticized for attempting to deflect responsibility for pushbacks in the Aegean. At a Commission-sanctioned meeting on December 9th, 2020, Leggeri denied any wrongdoing on the part of Frontex agents, implying that countries and not the agency held the power to determine what happened in their waters. His statement that, quote, when it comes to operations, only the host member state authorities can decide what has to be done, end quote, led Dutch MEP Tineke Strik to conclude that Frontex, quote, seems to be a partner in crime for those who deliberately violate human rights, end quote. Additionally, human rights activists within the EU institutional framework claim that Frontex has attempted to insulate itself from outside accountability by perpetuating staff shortfalls. While the agency was supposed to hire 3 deputy executive directors, 40 fundamental rights monitors, and a permanent fundamental rights officer by December 2020, it failed to do so, citing administrative hurdles on pay grades. Frontex apparent unaccountability has highlighted structural weakness in the EU system of checks and balances, which relies heavily on processes and trust that stakeholders act honestly. This weak system of checks and balances is akin to a feedback loop that allows violations of fundamental rights enshrined in EU and international law to go unpunished. While the European Parliament and the Council are responsible for holding Frontex to account, the hybrid supranational intergovernmental nature of the EU often precludes substantive scrutiny into agency and member state dealings. In fact, a common criticism of the EU and its institutions arises from the fact that it operates in an international system in which ultimate authority and legitimacy is vested in nation states. This means that accountability measures imposed on agencies that implicate member states are difficult to enforce and suffer from legitimacy deficits. After serious incident reports were submitted with regard to pushbacks on the Greek-Turkish border, Legere followed procedures requiring him to send letters to Greek authorities demanding an explanation. However, when the Greek government denied the allegations, no further action could be taken and the case was closed. Legere alluded to the structural weakness when he told MEPs that, quote, if a national government, if a minister sends a letter to the director of an EU agency and says that everything was according to the law, I cannot say I don't trust you, end quote. Even when the commission demanded the formation of a working group to investigate the allegations, the final report failed to produce any definitive conclusions on the pushbacks involving Frontex. Therefore, structural weakness of EU checks and balances perpetuates a system in which actors follow procedures to feign accountability and state institutions operate with impunity. It also allows agencies such as Frontex, which operate under the command of member state governments, to deflect criticism and avoid accountability. Moreover, Frontex's working relationship with member states limits judicial review of its human rights compliance by fragmenting the applicable legal framework and muddying consensus over what level of court has jurisdiction over the actions of agencies and member states acting collectively. A recent expansion of Frontex mandate in 2019 that increases its force to 10,000 by 2027 allows personnel to carry firearms and sees it becomes the EU's best funded agency with a budget of around 6 billion euros for the 2021-2027 period, renders the lack of accountability all the more worrying and raises serious concerns for the fundamental human rights of refugees seeking asylum in Europe in the future. The EU's inability to hold Frontex to account also has implications for the future of European integration and power on the global stage. Building consensus and convincing member states to pool sovereignty in areas such as military affairs and border security is particularly difficult, since these fields have critical national security implications. While Frontex is an important step towards realizing a common security and defense policy, first articulated in the Lisbon Treaty, its survival ultimately depends on the support of member states. Agencies such as Frontex are designed to strengthen European security while protecting the rule of law and respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. But if member states perceive EU agencies to be overbearingly and excessively restrictive, then they will not consent to them, damaging the prospects for a coherent CSDP. Therefore, the hybrid supranational intergovernmental EU system creates serious dilemmas for proponents of integration in security and defense. Allowing Frontex agents to operate under the command of national authorities inherently weakens accountability and increases the likelihood of human rights violations, such as migrant pushbacks in the Aegean. However, the EU's supranational weakness and supremacy of nation states means that, at least for the foreseeable future, it is also the EU's best hope to achieve a CSDP. In the meantime, EU advocates must ask themselves what they value most: norms and principles, or efficiency and progress. Thank you for watching my Poli357 news brief. I hope you enjoyed it and have a nice day.